Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC, Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Capital Advisory Group, Inc. is not affiliated with Kestra IS or Kestra AS. Neither Kestra IS nor Kestra AS provide legal or tax advice and are not certified public accounting firms.
You work hard for your money. For the next hour, you're going to learn how to keep what's yours. Capital Advisory Group presents Keep What's Yours. Here is Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Hello and welcome to Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. I'm Josh Gilbert, sitting here with Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Jeff, how you doing?
Just fine. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday as well to you and to all the listeners and everybody. We've said it before. Everybody knows talking taxes on a Saturday afternoon.
Yay.
Boy, nothing could be more boring. But let me tell you something, okay? Do you pay taxes or do you have to file taxes? Yes. Everybody should be nodding right now. And if you didn't file taxes, well, you need Jeff's help more than anybody.
And there's a couple of people driving down the road cussing a little bit because of it.
You know, I got to tell you, I heard a commercial on the radio. I think it was a different station. It was that guy with the thick accent talking about your tax problems. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned something on there, and you can tell me what a tax attorney does that Jeff Zufall doesn't do, or vice versa. And what it sounded like in the commercial was that he was going to be the middleman. He'll find you a Jeff Zufall.
Exactly. So they're more the tax attorneys are more the interpretation of the tax law. And there's gray areas in the tax law. Everybody knows that. So the tax attorneys would come in and actually decide, are you on the right side or the wrong side of that gray area? And that's what they do, is interpret. If you ever read tax code, it will put you to sleep instantaneously.
Right.
It is very, very dry, very boring. But there's multiple interpretations of it. So a tax attorney will step up and actually say, ooh, this is what that means. And then maybe go petition before the IRS to prove their case.
But he or she, tax attorney, they don't do my taxes.
No, typically they do not. They are the middleman in a sense. So if we run into an issue we have an issue currently where we have somebody with crypto who got scammed.
Brave New World.
Got scammed. But the question is since they sold it, but yet getting it to their account, they got scammed.
Right.
So the question is, did they really take constructive receipt of the money?
If I got scammed out of it, why would I have to pay capital gains when I never received it?
So here's the question, though. Because it shows on a tax form. Shows under 1099.
Yeah.
So, but they got
just like
scammed.
E-Trade sends me a thing at the end of the year. The crypto company sends something at the end of the year. But between that and my bank account,
never showed up.
It disappeared.
Yeah. Never took what's referred to as constructive receipt, so never got the capital.
If I get robbed, this is essentially high-tech robbing.
That's what it
at
is.
Gunpoint.
Seriously. Yeah.
If I get robbed, can I claim something on my taxes?
From more of a casualty standpoint, yes.
Like if I get drained for $100,000, that's a lot of money.
No, technically. Okay. It's usually only casualty, like your house, tornado, burns down, et cetera, and the insurance company is going to reimburse or not reimburse. Under that standpoint, there's pieces of that you would actually get to take a deduction on.
Okay, so you got a crypto issue. The guy... took the crypto out of
traded it, but was in the process of moving it to his bank account, and it got scammed.
Made a nice gain on it.
Oh, huge!
But it never hit his bank account because it got swiped somewhere in between.
So we have a tax attorney.
Do you have a tax attorney that you guys work with?
Oh, yeah.
At Capital Advisory Group?
Yeah, we have a tax attorney that is actually working this out with the IRS. The question is, do we claim it? If he claims it, he can't pay the tax, because he doesn't have the cash. If he had the cash, he could pay the tax.
Well, this seems pretty self-explanatory. I know that crypto is new and everything, but this, people getting scammed, that's an age-old problem.
Exactly.
Is there a not a modern day, because the modern day would be crypto, is there a latter day equivalent to this?
Yes, there was in the past. We had a gentleman who got scammed from his IRA, his actual IRA. $500,000 showed up as taxable income. Had a 1099, but didn't have the cash. Yeah. So you can't just go, IRS, I never got this money. I'm not going to claim it because the IRS is going to come back and go, no, you got a 1099. So he actually had to go file FBI reports, police reports, and the IRS did release him, or relieve him of that tax debt.
Okay. But
it took a while,
right.
And it took an attorney to go petition. And fight this. Not fight it, but kind of engage the IRS and say, look, we have an issue. It's a gray area. Nobody's going to say, here's the decision. So
the tax attorney could be a middleman, a go-between, but they can also interpret the law and go fight on your behalf.
Exactly.
The Jeff Zufall, senior tax strategist, you're the one actually.
We're going to put it together and say, this is how it should look on the tax return. Right. But if there is an issue, we need to engage another party to help us. So you guys work together, but do separate things. Yes.
So anyway, back to this commercial that I heard. I just wanted to point it out that they mention that if you didn't file your tax returns, if you got an extension, that's fine. But if you didn't pay anything,
still going to owe.
That's a problem.
Yes.
Because not only do you still owe money, but you're going to be hit with fees. You're going to be hit with penalties, taxes on top of taxes. And Jeff, what's that phrase that they always say? I was this year's old when I found out. We started doing the show a year ago, and I was 39 years old when I found out that even if you get an extension, you have to pay an estimated amount of what you owe.
Sometimes it's a really good guess. Sometimes we know what the numbers are. We just don't have all the documentation to
make it
finish
to officially file.
So we say, hey, pay this amount, you're good to go.
You have to pay. Regardless of whether you got an extension or not.
Yes, because they'll start a calculation for interest from the date, basically from April 18th coming forward.
And I've been paying taxes since I was 15 and a half.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was 39 in a very specific – not everybody, Jeff, gets to host a weekly radio show with a tax strategist in a very specific situation to actually find that out.
Yes. A lot of people, they say, oh, I'm under extension. It's like, okay, but that's for paperwork only.
Yeah.
And you don't need a signature, nothing. You just go online and do an extension. Poof, you're done. But if there's money due, or technically it's your previous year's tax liability. So most people that are, I say, W-2'd employees don't run into this, the most of the time. But anybody that is self-employed, that has created a new business, pay something. It's that simple.
You gotta do it, or else they'll fee you and penalize you.
They'll get you for failure to make estimated proper filing, proper estimated payments. Any money that's sitting out there, the interest starts tick-tocking away, and it goes quarterly. I think it's 4% as we sit today. Don't quote me on that.
Right.
But you'll see if you ever get a notice from the IRS, second page, it says, hey, April 18th, this $1,000 was due. And they go by quarters, and they'll line item it for you each quarter what the interest was.
And so if you don't pay, here I'm going to boil it down. If you don't pay, or you say, well, I don't know how much to pay, they're going to charge you more.
Yes, it's a tax on top of a tax.
I'm scared. I don't have the money. Well, work out a payment plan.
Work out a payment plan with them.
They'll do that. Just stop paying more money to the IRS that you don't owe them. That's the whole point of the show. Keep what's yours.
Keep what's yours. Exactly.
Stop overpaying on your taxes. And Jeff is here to do that for you. And like I said, if you were somebody who, well, I didn't know what I owed, so I got an extension, but, I didn't pay him anything. Well, you need Jeff to step up right now.
Yes.
If you're scared because you owe the IRS money and you don't think you have enough to give them, you're living paycheck to paycheck, you got to set something up.
Yes. Typically we see that self-employed people start making some good money, but yet still have the business expenses out there, and they get caught in that jam. And that is that the cash flow is starting to get going, but it's not enough. They owe the tax because they're profitable, but yet they still have the big business expenses getting the wheels in motion. And it's a catch-22, but it's fixable. It's workable.
Yep. And Jeff specializes in small businesses, and we're going to talk about small businesses a little bit later, but I should mention right now, if you own a small business Employee Retention Credit. This is being offered by the United States government.
Yes.
As part of the COVID relief package. Mm-hmm. This is not PPP money. This is not
the EDI, Emergency Disaster Loan. Yes.
This is something different. If you retained employees during the pandemic, you kept them off the unemployment rolls, the United States government wants to give you a credit for that.
Yes.
So to find out if you are a small business, to find out if you are eligible for these credits, myerctoday.com. myerctoday.com. Are you an employer? Did you keep employees throughout the pandemic? If yes, you might have some money out there looking for you.
You do.
And the form to fill out is pretty easy, and it just requires certain numbers that if you are a business, you have them.
You have, yeah. Typically, and anybody that runs a business will get this, the 940s, 941s, which is your quarterly wage report and your annual wage report, or some of the data that you key in, and they'll come right back and say you're eligible. And here's what we can do for you.
Yep. myerctoday.com. If you're a small business, that should be the first website that you check right now. Do it right now. We're going to go to commercial break. Check it right now and just get the ball rolling on that. That's free money.
Yes, it's free. And so it is, I say it's allocated a certain dollar amount. I don't know how many trillions are put out there towards it. But when they run out of money, they're going to run out of money.
When it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. And it starts March 2020, runs all the way to September of 21.
So if you retained employees for a year and a half during the pandemic, you are eligible.
Exactly.
So go out there before it runs dry. All right, we're going to go to commercial break. Check the website, myerctoday.com. Get the ball rolling on that if you're a small business. And, Jeff, when we come back, I want to talk about the IRS. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that think that the IRS is our enemy.
Yes.
But we'll explain why they really aren't.
They're not.
And if you've got ire with the tax code, it ain't the IRS you need to be
mad at. There's a whole other set of individuals you need to be mad at.
It's called the legislative branch of our government. Now, we'll go to commercial break, but I want to just remind everybody, if you if you filed your taxes but you didn't pay, or if you didn't file your taxes and got an extension and didn't pay, if you didn't pay your taxes this year because you don't know how much you owe, you're scared that you don't have enough money, you need Jeff Zufall on the case because the clock is ticking in the background. You still owe what you owe.
Exactly.
But now you owe more.
More.
Because you didn't do anything about it. And that burying your head in the sand is the worst thing you can do.
Will not help.
I wish that, the visual burying your head in the sand, once you get down in the sand, I wish that there's a clock with the running dollar amount number. The longer you're down there.
It's called the ostrich effect.
Yeah.
Which is the ostrich sticks his head in the sand and then pops out and goes, oh my gosh.
Oh, I owe more. I wish that there was a running dollar amount to say the longer your head's down here.
Yeah, the more it costs.
This is how much more you owe because you're burying your head in here. 636-394-5524. Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor. Capital Advisory Group, capitaladvisorygrp.com. Keep what's yours.
This is Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. I'm Josh Gilbert, and when we went to commercial break, I said, let's talk IRS. So I listened to a lot of radio. I mentioned that I heard the advertisement for that tax guy, tax attorney. What's the difference between a tax attorney and what Jeff Zufall does? You guys do work together, but on separate things.
Separate, yes.
Separate. So if you need someone to file your taxes, if you need some tax assistance, if you need to figure out ways to sign up for an FSA and HSA, these are all the things that Jeff does.
That we do, exactly.
Your retirement stuff, how can I put money in for my son's schooling and get 5% kickback from the state of Missouri. That's all stuff that Jeff does. The tax attorney basically is the one that will actually petition on your behalf.
Exactly. Go talk to the IRS, do whatever needs to be done behind the scenes for you, on your behalf or for you. So.
Sure. So boots on the ground, I think Jeff's actually the one that you might want to call, 636-394-5524.
Yes.
Now, I was listening to the station this week. And McGill was talking about the IRS. And
his best friend.
Yeah. McGill Millhaven. And he was talking, a caller called in, and they were talking about how there are certain people in politics who want to defund the IRS. And we have talked about how the IRS needs more funding.
They need more to work efficiently for your behalf. And the reason we say that is if your tax return is electronically filed, has no issues, goes in and comes straight out, that's great. It works perfect.
The only people that are bothered are the computer technicians.
Exactly.
Because everything's done.
In a roundabout way, the IRS is ran by computers today. No offense to the senior management, but it really is. If there is an issue with your tax return, it gets hung up, and it will take 6 months because they're understaffed.
Someone has to come over.
They have to touch it,
take a look
and
at it,
figure it out, and send you a letter and start the correspondence and say, hey, we need this or we need that.
And this is currently an advertisement why you want to make sure your taxes are done properly.
Yes.
The first
Definitely.
time.
The first go, because it becomes a pain, honestly.
Jeff, you did our taxes. And a little bit of complications in there. We added a baby. We had a new house. We've got a rental property that we share with my parents. So there was some,
it's technicality,
sticky, hingy things. But you filed electronically, and we got our tax return 3 days later.
Yeah.
So if you do it the right way, it's hire easy. Jeff to do your taxes. Yeah. It's easy. We can't do it on our own. It's not easy.
Well,
if you have a guy or a gal do it for you,
yes.
It's easy for you because you're, well versed in this whole thing. I think the point of this conversation right now is that taxes are not easy.
No, they're not. Unfortunately, in part of remember the postcard? I think that was Trump his first year said, "Oh, your tax return is going to be on this postcard."
Long desk in the White House holding up the
never
postcard.
happened.
Never happened.
Impossible.
And you say it never will.
No, it won't. It's impossible. There's too much money for deductions and organizations trying to get in there to go, oh, hey, push this, push that.
Lobbyists.
We'll
never let that happen.
They'll never let it happen. Flat tax is a great idea. Everybody pays 10%, 12%, whatever that number is.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Short, sweet, and simple, but it will not happen.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So you've heard, and the point of that statement being that you do have the H&R Blocks out there with their lobbyists saying, don't let this happen.
Even to a degree from like the H&R Block side, the IRS came along, I guess it was 3 years ago, and said everybody has to take a minimum competency test. And H&R Block sued them and won. And they said, nope, don't have to do it. So the minimum, like a bare bones, you can spell your name type of a test doesn't even exist today. And they also
That's the power of lobbyists.
Exactly. So no offense to them. They did it for, their business interest in a sense for H&R Block. That's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, you go, so the states then came in and certain states said, hey, you got to take a minimum test. You got to be at least able to answer these questions to be able to file returns.
Right.
Some states adopted it, some didn't. So.
And you have said many times on this show, Keep What's Yours, that if they did do a postcard or they did do something like a flat tax or they did make it easy and we could all do our own tax, you'd be out of a job.
We'd be out. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And look, you're not going to argue with that. It is what it is. Yeah. But it's not like that.
It won't happen.
You exist out of necessity.
Exactly. Yeah. That kind of just evolved over time because of they kept saying tax returns the tax process will get easier. But it's funny because if you ever look at any form that comes from the IRS, go to the back of it and it'll give you an estimated time to complete this form. And it's anywhere between an hour and 5 hours per form.
Out loud.
And so you go, to do a full tax return, old school, paper-wise, it would take you 18 hours in some cases. So technology helps a ton. But
you can just plug in the numbers.
Yeah, you plug it in and go. Yeah. But again, the IRS, some of their software is, I'll say, has the ability to use that, and some of it is so antiquated it's not even funny.
And Jeff, you're a small business, Capital Advisory Group.
Oh yeah,
you're exactly. A small business yourself. You're not lobbying Congress. We can get mad at the big firms that are lobbying Congress to make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah, tens of millions of dollars to throw at it.
So we can't even be mad at Jeff Zufall because you're just helping us out working with the system that's currently in place.
Exactly.
If they made it easier and I could do my own taxes, I'd say bye, Jeff.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya. But you're pretty confident that the way that Congress is working right now and the money that they probably get from the H&R Block lobbyists
too much of a shakeup in the entire industry.
It'll never happen.
Yeah, and there's too many games that are played from our politicians to say, hey, get this deduction, or we need this deduction. They'll go petition. It shows up in the tax law a couple years later.
So when my point being, the caller said that there is a certain political party or politicians that want to give less money to the IRS, and McGill, for to his credit, he's a great guy. Maybe he just doesn't realize it, but he said, well, I really don't have that much sympathy for the IRS.
No, a lot of people don't because of the horror stories that were, you've heard in the past. Some are
and
true,
I spoke
some
to
are
him
false.
after he got off the air, and he said, well, I got audited one time.
Yeah.
I said, well, okay, you're fair to feel the way that you feel. But I'm screaming at my radio. I'm texting him, Jeff Zufall. I'm texting him. I'm saying your ire is pointed in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
The IRS is just an enforcement.
They enforce. That's it.
They are bureaucrats. They are just enforcing the laws that Congress
put in place.
Yes. So if you have a problem,
not with the IRS, because
with the tax code,
literally are just enforcing.
We're just bean counters here.
Yep,
okay?
exactly.
We wear our little gray suits and
That's
go
right.
to our windowless
in the
office
windowless offices.
Don't be mad at us. Congress.
Yes.
They're the ones that wrote the tax code. If you have a problem with it, take it up with them.
Your elected official.
Yeah, so don't be bashing the IRS. They're not necessarily our friends.
No, in some cases it is not a how would you say it, a nice conversation,
right?
Because of the information that they want, the information that you have to produce to them. Again, at the end of the day, document. Always have anything that you're going to take a deduction for. Make sure you have a receipt.
Yeah, I think McGraw said that he took a business trip, and during the audit, they said, "Well, you can't write that off as a work thing because you don't have the receipt."
Yes.
Keep
the
receipts.
You have to
keep them all. Take pictures on your phone.
Take pictures, scan
them in
it,
a file.
Anything. The proverbial shoebox comes in handy where you could dig through and go, hey, look, you don't ever want to sit in front of an auditor and do that. But
with your Reebok shoebox.
Have it laid out in a normal fashion. Don't go, wait, I'll be right back and dig through.
Yeah.
But they do have their strategic 5-year plan that they're just putting out. So the IRS has announced this, I guess, as of a couple weeks ago. And so they're saying that they would like to they've undergone tremendous change over the past 5 years. And the change, I think, is they work from home for 2 years through COVID. So you couldn't be that efficient in what they do, working from home. And also, from what we understand, a lot of the employees didn't have access to certain parts of the databases just because they didn't want an outside source coming in.
Yeah.
Which I get that.
Firewalls and all that stuff.
So it was kind of limited information. Nobody's answering phones. So they need money. That's all there is to it to perform efficiently. In the past, you could call the IRS. You had a question. Yes, you might be on hold for 45 minutes. But you wouldn't be on hold for 3 hours and then the system hangs up on you.
Right.
And you got to call back again and again and again, and it takes 10 hours to get an answer or at least a partial answer from someone. So if it was working efficiently, I think a lot of people would be at ease more. I say the good part, if you want to call it that, is from an auditing standpoint, because the funds are low, they're not auditing like they used to. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean go out and cheat on your taxes, by no means. Because when they do come on board, they're going to go crazy. And remember, your tax return resides out there up to 3 years. You can amend it. And if they deem fraud anywhere in the tax return, it's unlimited. They go back 10 years if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So just remember that when you're doing your returns, that you just can't go, oh, I'm not going to get audited because they're understaffed. 4 years from now, you could get audited and you'd have to back those numbers on that tax return.
But let's break it down, because we've talked about this before. They had more money for the IRS and Build Back Better. That never passed.
Never passed, yeah. They got a piecemeal little stipend, basically.
They got a little something in the Ukraine bill, which did pass. And a couple of dollars was thrown out there. They're hiring a little bit more in Texas and in Kansas City.
Kansas City, Utah, and Austin. Are the 3 service centers.
So they got a little bit, but they need more. Here's the boilerplate. Here's the breakdown. It takes money to make money.
Yes.
If they're not doing audits, they're not catching the tax cheats.
Exactly.
If they don't have enough investigators to track down all the tax cheats, then people aren't paying
Their fair share.
Their fair share.
Exactly.
So I think the numbers are pretty clear when it comes down to this. If you hire a couple more people to find the tax cheats, you will bring in more revenue.
Money. Yeah, exactly.
Than what we're actually sending to the IRS
today.
It takes money to make
yes.
money.
Yeah.
And that goes with the IRS. And,
exactly.
And
yeah. So
their operating system.
Their strategic plan basically is going to evolve around service, enforcement, like what we talked about,
enforcement,
people, and transformation. Transformation is a little you go,
what does that mean? That can mean anything.
It could mean anything, but I think that means computer software, the ability to track and watch what takes place, the way people file their returns, so on and so forth. So again, if you fall in a certain category, you're a small business in an X category, you're the bakery. They're going to look at some of your numbers to see whether you're the top side, middle of the road, or low side, and that's how they kind of pick and do audits back and forth. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but they're just looking to see, are your numbers out of the norm?
Yeah.
And the question is, if you're that bakery or that flower shop, you don't know what the norm is. I mean, you know what your industry averages are, but you don't know the true numbers. So that's how they're kind of pulling their numbers as they do audits.
Got to imagine if that bakery or that flower shop is bringing in tens of millions of dollars, there's probably something strange going on.
Yeah, there's some.
Well, this is interesting.
Yes, yeah.
Money laundering.
Money laundering, exactly.
So when it comes to, and you had mentioned off the air before we talked about this, improve the taxpayer experience is what the IRS is.
That's what they say.
That sounds lovely.
It does.
We don't want to pay taxes.
Exactly.
But it's a necessary evil.
Necessary evil, you have to.
You have to, okay? So, at least make it as easy as possible.
Exactly. Seamless, pleasant as you could. So if you run into an issue, there's someone you could talk to.
Get somebody on the phone.
And get somebody on the phone and get your situation answered. One of the things I think that really drives people crazy, and we try and explain this to them, is maybe they're waiting for a refund. And they're like, well, I sent that in a month and a half ago. Well, okay, you got 4 more months to go. I mean, and they think we're being smarty about it, but that's the reality of the IRS. The states are fine. State of Missouri, state of Illinois, less than 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks tops, you get a response. But in the IRS's case, it is literally 6 months average.
Yep. And this listener on McGill Show, I'm sure he's a Keep What's Yours listener because he referenced the fact that the IRS is still backlogged from 2020.
Yes.
There's still stuff they haven't gotten out from 2020.
Yeah. I think it was by the end of summer, which is coming shortly, that they said they would be caught up.
Okay.
So
for 2020.
Yeah, for 2020. But I haven't seen what the new numbers are. They'll release that probably end of July, 1st of August, as to where they're at, where they stand. So.
And help me out with this. I do want to mention that the IRS. Did you see that? I don't know if it was an expose, maybe it was 60 Minutes or something. They went into the IRS a couple of years ago, and they were still using floppy disks.
Yes.
And when I say floppy disks, I mean
the real floppy disks.
The ones that flop and not those hard 3.5.
That are inside the little cover and it spins inside of it.
We're talking that bendy thing with the hole in the middle, floppy disks.
So maybe that's what the transformation means is their software programs.
We need to upgrade from 1988.
Yeah, to bring them back to. I mean, I remember doing that in high school. It was early 80s.
I mean, they're not even in the 20th century. They're in the 19th century.
Exactly. So yes, that's one of the big issues is apparently there's multiple servers that are being used at the same time, but none of them talk to one another, so they have to integrate. And I mean, that's big bucks right there.
Yeah.
So
catching the tax cheats or catching the people that are bending the rules, and this brings up the Elon Musks of the world, the Jeff Bezoses. Do they pay their fair share? It was brought up again.
Elon will this year.
Well, so here's an issue. Elon Musk is worth $200 billion with all of his stocks and assets.
Yeah.
But if that just sits there in the account and he never cashes it in,
he'll never pay tax.
He'll never pay taxes on it.
So they have a different tax code created for the ultra wealthy. Most of us will never venture down that path, but there literally is another tax code set up, which is the capital gains tax.
Yeah. And the tax code for us, a couple of pages, but the thing is 70,000 pages long A lot of it has to do with issues and people that will never
corporations and weird stuff, tax treaties.
But I can relate to that. Like if I had, my retirement account, I'm not getting taxed on it right now.
Exactly.
But when I go to take it out, I will.
You will.
So we say Elon Musk is worth $200 billion, but we're not talking about the elephant in the room. The tax man, the IRS, is sitting there with their hand patiently waiting.
Yes, waiting.
For Elon Musk to do something with that.
It's he either trades something or he dies.
Yeah.
And when he dies, that's typically how the IRS will get
he's got like 8 kids now.
Yeah.
When it gets transferred to them, they'll hit the,
estate tax issues.
What's the estate tax right now? 12 million? 12 and a half?
12.8, I believe. Yeah. 12.8 mil.
He's far surpassed that.
Oh, leaps and bounds.
So the IRS is going to tax him eventually.
Get it eventually. Other than there was one year, if you go back, I believe that was Steinbrenner, when George Steinbrenner died. The Congress did not vote in the estate tax issue, so George Steinbrenner's family never paid estate tax.
Oh.
And he was the owner of the Yankees and had multiple business ventures out there, and they got away without paying a dime. Just because Congress didn't vote it in that year, so it was a oopsie.
Well, I bet the IRS is kicking themselves right now.
Well, yeah, because then he died, and they're like, wait, we got to back this law up.
But we could have used that money. So, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos doesn't pay taxes. Well, they're utilizing the tax law the way that it's written.
To their advantage.
But
exactly.
If Jeff Bezos takes out $50 billion there's
going to be some serious tax, ramifications.
He's probably not going to pay, the same tax rate or whatever that he probably should have to.
It probably should be higher, but
right.
he will pay some tax.
They'll pay taxes.
Yeah.
So just like my, tax deferred IRA,
same thing, just on a way smaller scale,
waiting for me to finally cash it in, and they'll come and take their taxes. So my $1 million in my IRA is actually only more like 800,
and probably more like 600.
600. But that's the whole point of Jeff as well.
Yeah.
How do I take this out
exactly
without
in a tax efficient manner? And you're not going to get out of the taxes, but how can you reduce or lower your taxes as you go forward?
Here's another question. A tax-free investment. There's no such thing as a free lunch. But a tax-free investment, my house.
Or a Roth IRA.
Yeah. But I have to pay taxes on that money up front.
Yeah. Well,
I pay taxes on my house up front as well.
Because you paid as you make the house payment, hypothetically you're paying taxes to get that money to make the payment. But you get a $500,000 exclusion, married filing jointly, or a $250,000 exclusion, single.
On my house, if I sold my primary residence,
yes.
If I sold my primary residence and this market's crazy, I make $100,000.
They're starting to see the because the interest rates, since the Fed has raised interest rates, and they're going to raise again next week, probably 0.75 of a point. You're starting to see like J.P. Morgan just laid off, I think 1,000 mortgage brokers, because they're not seeing the flows for the mortgage, applications that they did in the past. So we're starting to see just that slowdown in the housing market. So the question is, will that bring down values of homes, or will they stay where they're at?
Plateau.
Exactly.
They won't go up, but they won't
probably won't go up. But the question is, will they come back down? So that's kind of the big question of the day. Is that the first leg of this so-called recession that we're talking ourselves into?
Yeah.
Because most economists are saying that from a recession standpoint, technically, yes, a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative gross domestic product, or GDP, back to back.
But if the third quarter it goes up,
exactly, it's over.
World's shortest recession
was 2020, March 2020.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was 8 weeks, I believe, and then we were out of it.
And then we all adjusted to the pandemic, and we were out of it.
Yeah.
But back to the house.
Yes.
If it's my primary residence and I make a good chunk of change on it because the market's crazy, and now's a good time to sell.
Exactly.
Maybe you want to downsize. It's time we sell the house. Let's sell it at the peak of the market.
Yeah.
If I make capital gains on it. I buy my house for $200,000. I sell it for $400,000. Theoretically, if I'm filing jointly, or even if I'm filing single,
be $250 as single. So
if you make $250,000 and you're single, you're good
in profit. Yes,
in profit. If you make $500,000 and you're married filing jointly, you're good. You don't have to pay taxes. That is an increase. That is an investment. That is tax free.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, you paid your real estate taxes.
Yeah. But again, you'll be able. So the old rules way back, way back in the day was that you had to buy equal or greater house, so on and so forth. So as long as you upgraded houses,
you had to roll it into something else.
You rolled it in.
Right.
Now it's the only time we see this. There's a couple issues that go with that. First one is the little old lady that bought a house in Ladue in 1950 for $15,000. It's worth $1.5 million today. Yes, you have a tax issue.
I mean, that's
a good tax issue. But when that house is sold, there's going to be some gains paid.
Yeah.
No way around it. The flip of that is if you take that for a second and you say, okay, most people, their house is their biggest asset. And I've heard this conversation over and over and over between couples to say, when one of us dies, the other one will have to figure out what to do with the house. Okay. The problem is let's say that you're borderline that $500,000 profit, which a lot of people have made money on their houses.
Especially if they buy a house when they're in their 20s and they live in it their whole life.
Exactly.
And it's in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah. And it's a desirable house. You're going to make money on it. So the question is then one of the spouses dies. That spouse is not going to turn around and say, they pass away in, August of the year. They're not going to turn around in September and go, I got to sell the house because of my tax liability. So
okay. Wait, whoa. Okay. So back up. If you're single, the limit is $250,000.
Exactly.
If you're filing jointly, it's $500,000. So the little old lady whose husband passed away, now she's single.
Exactly.
Unless she sells it in the same calendar, the same tax year.
Exactly. So
she's going to be single when she sells it.
Exactly. House. So most people married filing jointly, one of the spouses passes away. You literally have till December 31st of that year in which to sell that house and still be clocked as married filing jointly.
I mean,
but
hopefully
if you wait,
you've got an estate plan and a trust and you're not messing around with probate court and all that stuff.
But at the end of the day, most people mentally are not going to go, let's sell the house.
My husband just died. I'm going to move next week.
Yeah, I'm moving next week. You're not going to do that. You're going to sit tight for a while and kind of get everything back together. And so then the question is now you had a $500,000 exclusion, but now it's going to drop to $250,000
now you only have $250,000, and these are real numbers when you're talking about
exactly. And it's something to seriously think about. So I mean, if anybody's borderline or maybe ill health, maybe sell the house. Don't wait till that other person passes.
You're letting $250,000 be taxed.
Exactly. Yeah.
When
it technically wasn't or isn't.
And here's, like I said, let's not be mad at the IRS. Sometimes the tax code works in our favor.
And
they give us these gifts.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. And,
so
in that situation.
Jeff Zufall, senior tax strategist, wealth advisor, a couple comes to you, and maybe they're getting on in years, and they say, we do want to downsize eventually. Maybe you tell them, if you're ready to do it now, do it while you're both still alive.
Do it while you're both alive. Do it when you both can function, and it's not a big hit to you in a sense, or it's traumatic. I mean, typically selling your house is traumatic, to be honest with you, just in everything that takes place. But look at it as, hey, if one of you pass away, you're going from a $500,000 exclusion to a $250,000 exclusion. And so, I mean, that's a chunk of change. And if you're under that, where maybe you just bought your house and you really don't have those gains, don't worry about it.
You don't have the equity in it.
Exactly. But if you have those pent-up gains, and I ask that question all the time. A lot of people, I'm like, well, what are houses in your neighborhood going for? And they're like, anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. I'm like, no, what's your house?
Right.
What's the value of your house? And that's the question a lot of people can't answer.
So if you're in between $250,000 and $500,000 in equity in your house, if you were to sell it today, you need to talk to Jeff to say
not so much equity, but more so profit is the
sure.
what you're really looking at. Not so much because you could still be, have $1 million mortgage sitting on it,
sure.
but it went up by $500,000, So that's kind of it's pure profit.
Pure profit when you go to sell it.
So you bought it for $100,000 and it grew to be worth $300,000. You have a $200,000 gain.
Single people can make $250,000 profit and be tax free.
Yeah.
No capital gains.
Yes.
Married filing jointly can make $500,000 profit on the sale of your house and be tax free on capital gains. But anything more than $500,000, no matter who you are,
you're paying
some money. But maybe strategically think about when do we want to sell? What's the house worth?
Yeah.
What can we make off of it?
Exactly.
And when do we want to downsize?
And when you want to downsize, and again, looking at if you'd have sold 3 months ago, you would have got $20,000 more. Then that's timing. Nobody's perfect on the timing side of it.
There's a family in my neighborhood that sold their house, the big, beautiful house, one of the nicest lots. I'm like, why would they ever leave? Well, all the kids left the house, and I said, but still, and they're not, hurting for money.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, why don't you just stay in the house? A big, beautiful house, best lot in town. Maybe they realized that there was a tax issue that they could have taken advantage of by downsizing.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, the tax code is out there. The tax issues affect us all.
Yes.
Everyone sells a house. Everyone pays taxes. So this is the way to keep more of your money. And just doing that, just knowing that $250,000 for single, $500,000 pure profit on the sale of your house, married filing jointly, just knowing that you might be exposing yourself to extra taxes on $250,000
and
that could have been avoided.
In that situation, you won't. I mean, honestly, if a spouse passes, you're not just going to go, let me sell the house next week. It's
not realistic.
It's a 6 month, a year process to get you, in some cases even more than that, to get you to that point.
Right.
To where you say, okay, I will downsize, I will sell the house. So,
and some people would never dream of being able to have, a profit of $300,000, $400,000, or $500,000.
Exactly.
But these days, if you bought a house in the 50s or 60s,
it's happening all over the place.
You're going to find yourself in that situation pretty quick.
Yes, real quick.
One of the things that Jeff can help you out with to make sure that you keep what's yours. Funny. It's the name of the show. It's the name of the book that you wrote. And it's the philosophy that we love to live by, Jeff.
Yes.
Let's go to commercial break, and when we come back, we'll wrap the show up. Just a couple more things to mention here. On the Big 550, Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall.
This is Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the Big 550 KTRS, Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. Got a little bit of time left just to do some housework, clean it up. Small businesses. You are an expert with small business. You do my taxes on an individual basis. Yeah. You do other people's taxes on an individual basis. But you find that small businesses, that's your meat and potatoes.
Kind of our little niche.
That's your niche that's there. So if there's any small businesses out there and they need some tax assistance, or maybe just let Jeff look over the numbers and see if you're bleeding out in any certain places. It's all about keeping as much of your money in your bank account or in your business account. So let Jeff do an audit.
Yes.
This is a nice audit.
Yeah, nice audit.
This is an audit to save money audit. But you said there's new pandemic funding for small businesses.
Yes, this is coming out. Now, this came out in 2020, but it was never funded. And so this is what's called the State Small Business Credit Initiative.
So again, this isn't PPP. This isn't
totally different. So this is more of a credit, access to credit or capital. So what we saw in 2020 and 2021, they're saying there were more tax ID numbers created for small businesses than historically ever in the past. So that's a great resignation. Everybody was quitting their day jobs and they were going into business for themselves.
Starting up their small business.
Exactly. So some Republicans are freaking out on this, saying, hey, we don't need this. We're past the pandemic. But the concept behind it is more funding for small businesses.
And this isn't something that Walmart can take?
No.
This isn't something...
This is for small businesses only.
What is a small business?
Well, small business revenue less than $5 million, less than 50 employees, so on and so
Gotcha.
forth. So it's out there. The problem is that they're doing it when they say states, the money goes to the states. So there's 5 states that got the cash first. This was last month, and I think that it is Hawaii, Kansas, Maryland, Michigan, and West Virginia started this.
Just
kind of a bizarre calculation. I guess they had the best lobbyists to get the money first.
Well, that Hawaii, that was way off the mark.
But what's going to take place on this is basically it's for the startup cost of the companies to get the wheels in motion. So even if you're an established business, you will have access to this. We don't know when it's coming to Missouri just yet, or Illinois. Neither state's listed on the next round. But we're hoping within the next couple of months they start to release it, in a bigger picture in a sense.
So we mentioned myerctoday.com. That is the employee retention credit. The government has a bucket of money that will run out eventually.
Yes, that will run out.
But
Same here.
If you are a small business or any size business, right?
Technically, I think they're saying less than, I think it's $10 million in revenue or less than like 120 employees. You're technically to this program, you're a small business.
If you are a business that retained employees throughout the pandemic, between March of 2020 and September of 21, you kept them off the unemployment rolls when they were paying double unemployment.
Yes.
The government wants to reward you for keeping your employees employed. So go to myerctoday.com to start the paperwork on that. But you're telling us that there's even another
one. This is brand new coming out.
Brand new. It hasn't even been funded yet. The money's trickling down.
Yeah, it's slowly coming in. And they set aside $1.5 billion. So they're going to divide that up between all the states. So the money goes to the states. You have to, what we're assuming, apply through the federal government to the states to get your money.
So if I'm a small business, what's my first step?
As soon as we know, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
We don't even know the process yet because it's between these states. These first 5 states are the only ones that got funded so far.
But this is hanging out there. This is something. Might as well just give Jeff a call.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a funding scenario. And I say funding, they do get into the, what was the one side they were saying on here? The surge, from small businesses coming forward. They want to make sure, because typically in the past, if you had a small business and you needed funding, you go to the banks reject you. You go to the SBA, you have to create a business plan, and it's a 50-page business plan with every avenue covered. But if you're a small business, that's kind of a complete waste, where they're saying in this scenario, you will have some funding for it coming out there.
Well, good. And maybe what people can do, if you have a small business and you are interested to hear more about this, give Jeff a call, 636-394-5524, and say, Jeff, I know it's not there today, but when it trickles down,
I want some.
Put me on the list to call back, and you'll make phone calls and say, all right, the money's there.
Yeah.
Once
we
started.
know that it's out there. And it's basically called the State Small Business Credit Initiative.
Beautiful. 636-394-5524. Get on Jeff's radar and say, I'm a small business and I want to know more about this access to funding. And the thing is, can people turn down child tax credits? Can people turn down free money from the government, stimulus? I guess you could.
You could, but why?
Why would you do it?
You paid into the system anyway, so take it.
They're going to give it to somebody.
Yeah.
Might as well give it to me.
Exactly.
So that's the deal on that. My ERC Today, if you kept employees throughout the pandemic, the government wants to reward you. My ERC Today, they just ask you for business numbers and
basic information that you would know.
Anything that you would have on your last year's tax return anyway. So just plug that in and see if the government has any money for you. And there's a new one out there for small businesses as well. Just stay posted. Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope
see you next week.
Realize that they could keep a little bit more of their money.
Hopefully they do.
And that was a new one for me today. If you're married filing jointly and you sell a house and you make more of up to $500,000 in profit, tax-free, baby.
Yes.
But if you're single,
$250.
you can only make up to $250,000 in tax-free capital gains. So there's that, something to keep in mind if you and a spouse are knowing that you have to downsize and you're just putting it off. If your spouse passes away, here's a reminder. The next year you're filing as a single person.
Exactly.
You know, I hate to talk about death and taxes, but these are real numbers.
It is what it is.
So you're leaving a lot of money on the table up for grabs if you don't do something about it. So talk to Jeff. Have a consultation. See what he can do for you. 636-394-5524. Capital Advisory Group, capitaladvisorygrp.com. Jeff Zufall, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Manager at Capital Advisory Group. To learn more, call 636-394-5524 or visit capitaladvisorygrp.com.